He has a very deep and very accurate memory.
Everyone loved Dustin Hoffman's portrayal of the Rain Man, but Kim Peek's own father, Fran, had a very different story to tell. Before he passed away, he made sure the world knew what Hollywood intentionally simplified. The film gave you a character, but it hid the real man. A man whose brain was physically missing a key component, leading to godlike memory but profound daily struggles.
January 25th,
Saturday, all together.
August 25th.
Tuesday.
This isn't just about correcting a movie, it's about understanding a one in a billion mind and the family that fought to protect his true legacy. The lie. Hollywood sold you about Kim Peek. In 1988, the world was captivated by a movie called Rain Man. Dustin Hoffman's Oscar-winning performance as Raymond Babbitt, a man with incredible mental gifts and overwhelming social challenges, became a cultural touchstone. Millions of people suddenly felt they understood what a savant was. The thing nobody tells you is they were being shown a fiction based on a deep misunderstanding. The man who inspired it all, Kim Peek, and his father Fran, lived a reality that was infinitely more complex and, in many ways, more astonishing than what Hollywood put on screen. Fran Peek, a man of quiet determination, spent decades trying to gently correct the record. You see, the movie's biggest error wasn't in the small details, it was in the fundamental diagnosis that defined the character. The film presents Raymond Babbitt as an autistic savant. This label, for better or worse, became the world's primary lens for understanding people with savant syndrome. But here's the first shocking truth that Fran wanted the world to grasp. Kim Peek was not autistic. This wasn't a matter of opinion. It was a matter of medical fact, confirmed by researchers at the University of Utah and numerous other experts who studied Kim over the years. The root of Kim's extraordinary condition was not autism, but a collection of rare congenital brain anomalies. The primary one was something called agenesis of the corpus callosum. To put it simply, the massive bundle of nerves that connects the left and right hemispheres of the brain, the superhighway for information, was completely missing. He was also missing the anterior and posterior commissures, smaller connecting pathways. His brain was, quite literally, disconnected in a way that is almost unheard of. This anatomical fact is the master key to understanding Kim. Without a corpus callosum, his brain hemispheres operated in a strangely independent way. Many researchers believe this is what allowed for his mega savant abilities. His brain didn't waste energy integrating information between the two sides. Instead, it seems to have rewired itself, creating unique and highly efficient pathways within each hemisphere, turning his mind into an unparalleled storage device. What many overlooked is that this physical difference, not a behavioral condition, was the source of both his genius and his struggles. Fran often explained that while the movie brought awareness, it also created a fog of misinformation. It lumped Kim into a category that didn't fit, obscuring the truly unique nature of his mind. People would approach Fran and Kim expecting to see the character from the movie, and Fran would patiently explain that his son's story was different, a tale of biology, not behavior in the way people assumed. To put it mildly, it was a frustrating, lifelong mission for a father who just wanted the world to see his son for who he truly was. But the autism label was just the beginning of the film's distortion. The human Google before Google existed. Hollywood gave Raymond Babbitt a few memorable party tricks, counting toothpicks spilled on the floor and memorizing a phone book. Many people are crazy about these scenes, but for Kim Peek, those feats were child's play. His real abilities were so profound, they bordered on the unbelievable. The movie barely scratched the surface. Fran Peek often recounted how Kim's journey into the world of information began before he could even walk. At just 16 to 20 months old, while other toddlers were learning to say "mama," Kim was reading, not just reading, but absorbing books with an impossible speed and perfect retention. His method was something that neuroscientists still marvel at. Kim could read 2 pages of a book simultaneously, his left eye scanning the left page and his right eye scanning the right. He could get through an average-sized book in about an hour, and he never forgot a single word. He didn't just remember the gist, he remembered everything. It was a process he called scanning, and the data was permanently uploaded to his brain. It's estimated that by the end of his life, he had perfectly memorized the contents of over 12,000 books. He was a walking library, a human Google decades before the search engine was even invented. Ask him about the history of the Ottoman Empire, the complete works of Shakespeare, sports statistics from 50 years ago, or the Bible, and he could recite passages verbatim. His knowledge wasn't just limited to books. He memorized maps. Give him any city in the United States and he could tell you how to get from any street to another. He memorized the entire U.S. zip code directory. You could give him any date of birth and he would instantly tell you what day of the week you were born on and what major news headlines were from that day. These were not tricks. They were the natural output of a mind wired for total, unfiltered information storage. The thing is, this wasn't memorization in the way we understand it. For us, memory is a process of encoding, storing, and retrieving, and it's often flawed. For Kim, it seemed to be a direct, perfect recording. This is what Fran felt the movie missed. It showed the what, but never came close to conveying the sheer scale and the how of Kim's abilities, which were rooted in a brain that was fundamentally different from our own. Yet, for all his mental power, he couldn't perform the simplest tasks. The price of an extraordinary mind. The man who could hold 12,000 books in his head could not button his own shirt. This is the central, heartbreaking paradox of Kim Peek's life, a reality that Fran Peek navigated every single day. While his son's mind soared through history, literature, and complex data, his body struggled with the most basic of motor skills. You see, the same brain abnormalities that allowed for his incredible memory also severely impacted his coordination and practical abilities. Simple, everyday tasks that we perform without a second thought were monumental challenges for Kim. He struggled to walk and had a distinctive side-to-side gait. He couldn't operate a light switch, manage a belt buckle, or brush his teeth without assistance. He needed help with virtually every aspect of daily grooming and dressing. Fran was not just his father, he was his hands, his guide, and his constant companion. Fran once described himself as Kim's external corpus callosum, a beautiful and poignant way of saying he provided the bridge between Kim's brilliant mind and the physical world. He helped Kim navigate stairs, prepared his meals, and managed their entire life together. This profound dependence was something the movie only hinted at. Raymond Babbitt had his routines and sensitivities, but the film didn't and perhaps couldn't fully capture the depth of Kim's daily struggles. Beyond the physical, there was the challenge of abstract thought. What many overlooked is that Kim's mind was intensely literal. He could recite thousands of proverbs, but he couldn't understand what they meant. If you told him to zip his lip, he might reach for his mouth, confused. Jokes, metaphors, and sarcasm were foreign languages to him. His intelligence was encyclopedic, not interpretive. He had all the facts in the world, but he struggled to connect them, to form arguments, or to grasp the subtle, unwritten rules of human interaction. Fran explained that Kim possessed a deep, innocent, and loving nature, but his emotional and social understanding remained childlike. This was the true, complex picture, a godlike memory housed within a fragile, dependent man who needed his father for everything. The movie's fame would change their lives forever, but not how you'd expect. Life after the limelight. Before Rain Man, Kim Peek lived a quiet, sheltered life in Salt Lake City with his father, Fran. Most people didn't know his name. He spent his days reading books, thousands of them, memorizing them word for word, but rarely leaving his small world. He was often misunderstood, sometimes ridiculed, even dismissed as handicapped. But then Hollywood came calling and everything changed overnight. Fran called it the Rain Man effect. One movie, one Oscar, and suddenly the entire world wanted to meet Kim Peek, the real-life savant who inspired Dustin Hoffman's character. Father and son packed their bags and set out on a new adventure, traveling nearly 3 million miles, speaking to over 2 million people and visiting 60 countries. For the first time in his life, Kim wasn't being stared at with confusion or pity, he was being celebrated with awe. And something incredible began to happen. The shy, withdrawn man who used to hide behind his father's shoulder began to blossom before everyone's eyes. Fran always said that the movie, despite its inaccuracies, was the best thing that ever happened to Kim. The constant social interaction became a form of therapy. Meeting new people, shaking hands, and answering endless questions about history, science, and geography gave Kim something that no medication ever could: a sense of purpose. He learned to make eye contact. He developed a quirky, endearing sense of humor. He'd joke with crowds, saying, "I'm the living Google," long before anyone even knew what Google was, and every time he said it, his eyes would light up. In a strange twist, the fictional Raymond Babbitt had given the real Kim Peek a bridge to humanity. Fran used to say that screenwriter Barry Morrow didn't just write a movie, he gave Kim a world to live in. Morrow even gave Kim his Oscar statuette, which Kim proudly carried to every event, letting children hold it and make wishes. It was his way of sharing the magic that had once been locked away inside him. But behind all the smiles and applause, there was another side to the story. The Rain Man label was both a blessing and a burden. Many people expected Kim to act like the movie character, a cold, robotic genius who could instantly count cards or calculate equations. In truth, Kim's gift wasn't mechanical. It was deeply emotional. He remembered everything because he felt everything. Every fact, every date, every poem, it all lived inside him as if his mind were one enormous interconnected library. But living up to the public's image of the super savant could be exhausting. Fran sometimes said that the fame, though wonderful, came with a cost. Kim had to be Rain Man even when he was tired. Still, Fran turned that fame into something bigger. He used it as a platform to change how the world saw people with disabilities. His mission was clear: help others look past the label. Don't see a diagnosis, see a person. Recognizing differences is one thing, he would tell audiences, but celebrating them is what truly matters. Yet for every logical explanation, there were those who wanted more. People watching Kim perform his feats of memory, reading 2 pages at once, one with each eye, or recalling entire phone books, couldn't help but wonder, was there something otherworldly about him? Some said he had a photographic memory so advanced it defied known neuroscience. Others claimed he might be a kind of mental antenna, somehow tapping into a collective field of human knowledge. There were even stranger theories. A few neurologists suggested Kim's brain might have been hyper-connected in ways no normal brain is, almost as if his 2 hemispheres worked like a dual-core computer, processing twice the data at once. Paranormal enthusiasts went further, calling him a quantum savant, hinting that his mind might be accessing information beyond time and space itself. One author even suggested that Kim's condition wasn't a disorder at all, but an evolutionary mutation, a glimpse of what human intelligence could look like centuries from now. Of course, Fran didn't buy into all that. He was a realist. He believed his son's mind was extraordinary, yes, but grounded in something simple and human. The real secret, he once said, isn't in his brain. It's in his heart. And maybe that's what made Kim's story so different. He wasn't just a walking encyclopedia. He was a gentle, affectionate soul who remembered every birthday, every name, every kindness shown to him. Still, it's hard not to wonder, was his memory just memory or something deeper? Some neuroscientists later revisited his case and proposed that Kim's brain might have reorganized itself after losing key connections in early development. With the corpus callosum missing, his brain was forced to reroute information in unpredictable ways, almost like a city rebuilding its roads after an earthquake. The result? Total recall. But even that explanation feels incomplete. How do you explain a man who could read a book in under an hour and recall every word decades later? And so the theories kept coming. Some whispered that Kim might have been able to see patterns of information that others couldn't, like the way savants in history seem to access hidden layers of reality. There's even a fringe theory that savant syndrome might not just be a medical condition, but a glitch in the simulation, a moment when the human brain accidentally gains access to the full code of the universe. If that's true, then maybe Kim Peek wasn't just a genius, maybe he was a messenger. But Fran would have laughed at that. To him, the mystery was never about how Kim's mind worked, it was about what it meant. He wanted people to stop looking for tricks or explanations and start understanding something deeper. The real miracle wasn't in his son's recall, it was in his resilience. Hollywood gave us a character, but Fran Peek gave his son a life. Was it right for a movie to get the facts so wrong, even if it brought so much good? Let us know your thoughts below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.